There is a moment in every wrestling fan who has ever sat in those seats, stood on their feet, or screamed at a television screen knows this moment where the air in an arena changes. Where the crowd doesn't just react to what they're seeing, they feel it. Deep in their chest, behind their ribs, somewhere between their heartbeat and their breath. That moment happened. And it wasn't scripted the way you'd expect. It wasn't announced weeks in advance with a glossy graphic and a dramatic music sting. It arrived the way the best moments always do, out of blood, out of history, out of something that goes so far beyond sports entertainment that it becomes something else entirely. It becomes personal. What you are about to hear is the story of two brothers. Two men who share the same roots, the same sacrifice, the same fire, and who now stand on opposite sides of the most important conversation WWE has had in years. One of them holds the Intercontinental Championship. The other one? He wants it. And not because it's a title. Not because of the prestige or the legacy or the spotlight. He wants it because of who's holding it. And that, right there, is what makes this story hit differently than anything else on the card. This is the story of Rey Fenix and Penta. And the moment one brother looked the other dead in the eye and said, enough. Let's go back a little. Let's talk about what it took to get here, because if you're going to understand the weight of this confrontation, you need to understand where both men came from. Penta El Zero Miedo didn't just walk into WWE and become Intercontinental Champion overnight. The man clawed for it. He brought with him a persona so deeply developed, so viscerally intimidating, that even hardened veterans on the roster found themselves adjusting their approach when he walked through the curtain. The skull mask. The deliberate, measured pace. The way he holds the title not like it's precious, but like it belongs to him, the way a weapon belongs to the hand that forged it. Penta built himself into a monster. And the monster won the gold. But here's what gets overlooked in that story. Here's what the highlight packages tend to skip over because it doesn't fit the clean narrative of solo ascent. Rey Fenix was right there. For every chapter of Penta's career that mattered, every high-stakes match, every impossible situation, every moment where the stakes were so enormous that lesser men would have crumbled, Rey Fenix was in the orbit of that story. Sometimes as a partner. Sometimes as a counterpoint. Always as the other half of something the wrestling world has never quite been able to fully categorize. And then WWE came calling, and things got complicated. The early weeks of both men's WWE tenures felt electric. Fans who had followed them for years were beside themselves. Two of the most gifted wrestlers on the planet, now on the biggest stage, with production and storytelling resources that could amplify everything that made them extraordinary. The question wasn't whether they'd succeed. The question was how. Together? Separately? In what combination? The possibilities felt genuinely limitless, and for a while, that uncertainty was part of the fun. But then Penta won the Intercontinental Championship. And something shifted. It's hard to pinpoint the exact moment. Championships change the energy around a person. They change how the locker room looks at you, how the camera finds you, how the announcers talk about you. Penta with the Intercontinental title became something slightly different than Penta without it. More guarded. More deliberate. The persona deepened, the walls went higher, and somewhere in that process, the dynamic between him and his brother began to calcify into something neither of them had publicly addressed. Not on television. Not in interviews. The silence itself became a statement. Fans noticed. Of course they noticed. Wrestling fans always notice the things that aren't being said, the interactions that should be happening but aren't, the elephant in the room that production is pretending doesn't exist. Social media was a furnace of speculation. What does Rey Fenix think about his brother being Intercontinental Champion? Where does he fit in this picture? Is this a partnership waiting to explode? Is this a rivalry being slow burned to perfection? The answer, it turns out, was yes. Just not in the way anyone expected. Because when Rey Fenix finally broke his silence, he didn't do it with a backstage promo. He didn't do it with a carefully worded statement read at a press desk. He did it the way Lucha Libre legends have always done it, in the ring, under the lights, with the crowd as witness. Raw was in the middle of a championship celebration segment. Penta had just successfully defended the Intercontinental title in a brutal, exhausting match that left the challenger barely able to stand. The production team had set the stage for a moment of triumph, confetti, lighting, the full coronation package. Penta was soaking it in. The crowd, as they always do with the most compelling heels and tweeners, was split. Half of them loving the spectacle. Half of them resenting it. And then the music hit. Not Penta's music. Different music. And the crowd, even the people who hadn't put the pieces together yet, felt it before they understood it. The energy shift was seismic. Because Rey Fenix walked out, and he wasn't smiling, and he wasn't rushing. And he wasn't doing the thing performers sometimes do when they're making an entrance in a celebratory segment, that slightly deferential body language that says, "I know this isn't my moment, I'm just passing through." No. Fenix walked out like the moment belonged to him, like he'd been waiting for it. Like every step down that ramp was a word in a sentence he'd been composing for a very long time. The arena went absolutely unhinged. Penta watched from the ring, didn't move, didn't flinch. Just watched his brother walk toward him with that look on his face, the look that doesn't need subtitles, the look that every sibling understands regardless of language or culture or context, the look that says, "We need to have a conversation we've been avoiding." Fenix got in the ring. The music faded. The crowd somehow, impossibly, with no coordination or instruction, hushed themselves, because they understood, collectively and instinctively, that whatever was about to happen required silence to land properly. Fenix looked at the Intercontinental Championship belt hanging off Penta's shoulder, looked at it for a long moment, and then looked at his brother. What happened next was not a promo in the traditional sense. There was no ranting, no screaming, no theatrical villain speak or babyface rallying cry. What Fenix delivered was something far more unsettling and far more powerful. He was calm. He was measured. He spoke with the quiet authority of a man who has made a decision and is simply informing the relevant party. He talked about sacrifice. He talked about how long they had both carried the weight of representing their family, their heritage, their craft at the highest possible level. He talked about what it meant to watch from the outside while your own blood stood in the center of the spotlight. And he was careful, painfully, deliberately careful not to frame it as jealousy, because it wasn't jealousy. He made that clear. He said something that stopped the crowd cold. "I'm not here because I'm angry at you. I'm here because I respect you too much to pretend I don't want what you have." The crowd lost their minds. Because that's the line, isn't it? That's the razor's edge that the very best wrestling storytelling walks. Not hatred. Not pettiness. Respect that sharpens itself into challenge. Brotherhood that doesn't diminish the ambition but makes it more complicated, more emotional, more real. Fenix wasn't attacking Penta. He was honoring him by taking him seriously enough to come for the title. Penta, for his part, said nothing for what felt like an eternity. You could see him processing it. The crowd was so quiet you could hear the shuffle of feet in the upper deck. And this is the moment that people are still talking about, the moment that clips will be shared from for years. Penta smiled. Not warmly. Not the smile of a brother welcoming a challenge from a loved one. A different smile. The smile that the skullmask persona lies behind. The smile that means, "I was wondering when you'd finally show up." He raised the Intercontinental Championship above his head and said two words: "Prove it." The building detonated. Now let's talk about what this means, because the storytelling implications of this confrontation are genuinely staggering when you unpack them. The Intercontinental Championship has a history in WWE that stretches back decades, and at its best it has always represented the pure wrestling prize, the title that the best in-ring performers in the company gravitate toward because it tends to live on the shoulders of people who can actually go. Penta being the champion in this era fits the tradition perfectly. And now Fenix challenging for it? You are talking about the potential for one of the most technically and emotionally rich championship matches WWE has produced in a very long time. Think about what these two men bring to a singles match between them. Think about the history, the chemistry, the shared vocabulary of movement and timing that brothers develop over years of training together, working together, pushing each other. They know each other's rhythm. They know each other's tendencies. There is no scouting report for this match, because the scouting report was written across a lifetime. That cuts both ways. Penta knows every signature sequence Fenix is likely to build to, and Fenix knows every counter Penta is likely to throw back. What that produces, when two wrestlers of this caliber know each other that intimately, is something the wrestling world calls a war. And we are genuinely here for all of it. The backstage reactions have been what you'd expect from a roster watching something they know is significant. Veteran performers who don't throw around compliments freely have been notably vocal about the potential here. The production team apparently had the segment run longer than scheduled because nobody wanted to cut away. The feeling in the building was too electric to truncate. There's something happening with this program that transcends the usual mechanics of championship storytelling, and everyone in that locker room seems to sense it. There's also a fascinating subtext worth examining, which is the question of how you maintain the integrity of a character like Penta when your challenger is your brother. Because Penta's character is built on a certain psychological dominance, on the idea that he fears nothing and yields to no one. How does that survive a program with someone who has seen him at his most human, most vulnerable, most unguarded? That's not a weakness in the story. That's the story. The most compelling test for any character who has built themselves into something mythological is the person who knew them before the myth. Fenix is that person. And the moment Penta has to reckon with the brother behind the mask, that's where this narrative ascends from good to genuinely great. There's a match coming. There has to be. The confrontation was too perfectly constructed, the reaction too overwhelming, the pieces too precisely assembled to exist without a payoff. Whether it happens at the next premium live event or whether they let this breathe and develop for another few weeks, the destination is clear. Rey Fenix and Penta, one-on-one, with the Intercontinental Championship on the line. And here's the thing about matches where the emotional stakes match the athletic ones. Here's what happens when two people who genuinely understand each other step into the ring with everything on the line. The technical excellence is expected, that's the baseline for both of these men, and nobody in the building or watching at home will be surprised when they do something physically breathtaking. What elevates it is the moment when you can feel the weight behind the action. When a near fall isn't just exciting because of the drama of the pinfall itself, but because of what it means for both men if the count reaches 3. When a finishing move isn't just a finishing move but a statement. When someone kicks out not just because the story requires it but because the heart behind the performance demands it. That is what this match has the potential to be. That is what this confrontation has set up. And if the writing team, the performers, and the production build on what happened on that Raw the way the foundation suggests they should, if they trust the story and don't overcomplicate it, don't pile on unnecessary characters or distractions, just let these two brothers carry the weight, then we are looking at a championship match that people will still be referencing years from now. Rey Fenix came to WWE to be exactly what he has always been, one of the most gifted, most daring, most uniquely brilliant performers in the history of professional wrestling. He didn't come to stand in anyone's shadow. Not even his brothers. Especially not his brothers. And Penta, to his credit, seemed to understand that before Fenix even had to say it. The smile told you everything. He wasn't threatened. He was ready. He'd been holding that championship, perhaps, partly in anticipation of this very moment, the moment the only challenge that truly mattered finally arrived. Point 2 brothers. One title. A story built on blood and sacrifice and the complicated, beautiful, impossible love that exists between people who have fought for each other and now have to fight against each other for the thing they both deserve. This is wrestling at its absolute best. This is why the lights come on and the music plays and the crowds pour in and the world pays attention. Because sometimes, right in the middle of all the spectacle and the pageantry and the larger-than-life theater of it all, something real breaks through. Something true. Something that reminds you why you fell in love with this in the first place. Fenix said prove it. And the championship match is how he intends to do exactly that. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Who are you siding with? Does Fenix deserve the shot, or is Penta right to make him earn every inch of it? This channel lives on conversations like this one, so let's hear it. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button because the Wrestling Impact team does not miss when it comes to covering the stories that actually matter in WWE. Like this video if you want more deep dives like this, and stay locked in because this rivalry is just getting started, and we are going to be right here for every single chapter of it.